Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 53rd part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 53, Final Exam, Welcome to Hell Edition. Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, Izumi thought as she and Achiko sat in the bus that was taking them to their doom. Their wills already written. They already had a good idea of what Gran Torino could do. They did spend several lessons trying to dodge the man as he zipped around like a rocket, to absolutely no success. And now, she and Achiko would be up against him for their final exam. To be more specific, they were up against him in his prime. All Might was scared of this man. All fucking Might. And they had to beat him. Oh, joy. Achiko wasn't faring much better. She was muttering some kind of prayer or something. Izumi wasn't really sure at this point, but she couldn't blame her. Gran Torino was fucking terrifying, even with those weights slowing him down. If we're being honest, those weights weren't going to do much for them. Even Durandal was scared of the man, for crying out loud. Durandal. WTF. She was going to be having words with Tashinori after this because against All Might she would have had a chance. Here, they're dead, gone, RIP the Green Tea Duo, because this is where they die. I'm trying to come up with a way to reassure you that everything will be fine, a female voice said in her head. But this is Gran we're talking about there, and he's back in his prime. Even I was scared of him at times. Any helpful advice you can give me? Izumi asked. Yeah. Run, the voice replied. That's not helpful. Izumi thought. Okay, thinking about her impending death wasn't helping, in fact, it was only making things worse. So, she decided to distract herself by thinking about her classmates' exams. Denki and Mina were fucked. Horigaramu was a lot like Nizu. As in, they both loved to torment people. Denki and Mina stood no chance against her. She knew that, as a matter of fairness, the real Horigaramu had to be in the arena somewhere for them to find. The problem is that no one knows what she looks like. So it's going to be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, whilst the haystack is trying to kill you. Hitoshi and Yui were among those who had the best chance of winning theirs. That is, as long as Hitoshi can get Mandalay to respond to him verbally. Because a telepathic response was not going to work. Tenya and Nito were going to struggle against Pixie Bob. Her quirk gives her complete control of the terrain. No doubt she will make it as rough and uneven as possible to give Tenya a hard time, and she can keep Nito at bay with her earth monsters. Running towards the exit would be difficult, but not impossible. Toru and Himiko had a very poor matchup. Ragdoll's quirk, Search, allowed her to monitor and observe people from almost anywhere, including their current location. She will know exactly where they are at all times, not good for two people who specialize in stealth. Running and hiding won't work against her. They'll have to fight. Ijiro and Rikido were another two she didn't think were going to win. Tiger's quirk, Playa Body, allows him to stretch and flatten his body at will, giving him inhuman flexibility. He can use this to get to places a normal person couldn't, or, in combat, restrain someone. They had no chance against him in a straight-up fight. Running away and trying to reach the exit was their only hope of winning. Sadly, knowing Ijiro's personality, and how he hated stealth, saying that it's not manly to sneak around or run away from a fight, and that Rikido got dumber the more sugar he ate, it was unlikely that they would run from him. Koji and Kyoka were going to have a challenge beating Present Mike. The man was loud, and thanks to his quirk, he could be even louder. He was bound to scare away all of the animals, giving Koji very little to work with, and Kyoka is going to suffer from some serious ear damage due to her more sensitive hearing. Momo and Anesa were going to be in for a fight for their lives. Their homeroom teacher, Kana, was by far the best marksman in Japan, no matter how many times the pro hero Yoko has tried to disprove that fact. She was fast too, capable of relocating to a new position quickly. The two better hope that there is plenty of cover in their arena, because if there isn't, then they are as good as dead. Suyu and Fumicage were probably going to win theirs. As long as they can keep tabs on Ectoplasm's clones and don't allow him to overwhelm them, then things should be fine. Hanta and Minoru were going to struggle a lot against Midnight. Not only do they have to deal with both her quirk and flirtatious personality, but also her nanocore. They would not win a straight-up fight. They will really have to think about this one. Chiharu and Mei didn't have much of a chance against Gentle Hero. Chiharu was going to struggle laying any of her mines, plus she didn't have much combat experience. Their victory all depended on how well Mei performed with Isaac. So, Achiko said nervously, shuddering with fear. Any idea how we can survive Gran Torino? No, Izumi replied weakly. Well, we're dead. Achiko said as she deflated. R.I.P. us. We are gonna die in like a minute. 5, Izumi corrected. What? Achiko asked, looking confused. Izumi held up a hand with all 5 fingers out. 5 minutes. That's how long I can use my gearshift technique for. During that time we can reliably keep up with him and avoid him. I don't know if we can use this to escape. We can try, but I doubt we will work. Gran Torino is fast, and now that he's younger, he's much faster and stronger. But during those 5 minutes, we have a chance of winning. Once those 5 minutes are up, we lose. So, we have 5 minutes for me to use my quirk on him, Achiko said. Izumi shook her head. No, 5 minutes for either of us to use our quirk on him. Gearshift not only allows me to speed things up but also slow things down. One tap from me, and I can bring him to a complete standstill. The challenge is touching him in the first place. You will need to tap him with all 5 of your fingers, and whilst I only need to tap him with one, I need to be actively thinking of reducing his speed to neutral, which won't be easy when I've got an angry old guy in an adult body zipping around kicking me in the face. I think it might be advisable that you don't wear me for this exam, Durandal said. We need to give him multiple targets to hit. The more he has to deal with, the better our chances. Now all we need to do is plan out how your 2 are going to touch him, he said with a shudder. All 3 of them shuddered as the bus came to a stop, realizing they were only a few minutes away from their fate. They could only hope that Gran Torino would go easy on them. Who were they kidding? He was going to fucking destroy them. And, upon entering ground beta, they realized they were oh so fucked. Buildings, oh so many buildings. This gave him a lot of places to bounce off of. Okay, remember the dodgeball practice he put us through, Achiko said as they entered the field. You mean the dodgeball practice where he was the ball? Izumi asked. Because if it is, then that's a bad example. Achiko shuddered. Yeah, maybe you're right, she said, remembering the lessons in question. And how out of position her head felt since then. Let's just gearshift in zero gravity ourselves, Izumi said. If we can get out of here before Gran Torino can intercept us, we might be able to win this without a fight. Achiko nodded and prepared to use her quirk. 5 minutes. That's all they had to beat Gran Torino. Once those 5 minutes were up, that was it, they were done for. They would not be able to survive beyond that. When the klaxon signaling the start of the exam went off, the 3 of them quickly went into action. Izumi used gearshift on all 3 of them, with Achiko doing the same with her quirk. Gearshift, 5 minutes. Once all 3 of them were both weightless and had a significant boost to their speed, Achiko grabbed both Izumi and Durandal and ran towards the exit. To be fair to them, they managed to get 3/4 ths of the way there before they were intercepted by Gran Torino and kicked into a wall. Which was more than they had expected. Nice try you 3, Gran Torino said as the dust settled. But it's going to take more than that to get past me. The 2 students and 1 robot quickly scrambled to their feet. 4 minutes and 50 seconds. They could do this. Izumi charged forwards, only for Gran Torino to shoot forwards and boot her into a wall. 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Nope, fuck that, they could not do this. Denki and Mina versus Horigaramu. How the hell are we supposed to beat her? Mina shouted as she and her partner ran for their lives, whilst being chased by Horigaramu. Specifically, one the size of a fucking skyscraper. It's just a hologram. Denki shouted as he ducked under a bar that appeared out of nowhere. The real Horiguramo has to be here somewhere. But where? Mina shouted. How are we supposed to find someone who we don't know what they look like? Fuck if I know. Denki replied. Horiguramo meanwhile was laughing like mad as she gave chase to the two students before her. If they had been smart, they would have realized that she was leading them away from where she was really located. Right in front of the exit, curled up inside one of Shota's sleeping bags. Yes, she can buy her own sleeping bag. Will she though? Nope. Anyway, she's got some kids to torment for the next half hour. Maybe she should make a hologram of her favorite mechanical spider of death. People really love that guy. Hitoshi and Yui versus Mandalay. Is this seriously all you've got? Hitoshi chilled as he ducked underneath a swipe from Mandalay. I've seen pigeons swipe better than that. He didn't mean that, by the way. Those gloves of hers were no joke, they were sharp. You really need to work on your material more, Mandalay replied, using her quirk to talk to him. I've had villains insult my mother better than that. Hitoshi cursed. This wasn't working. None of his material was working. Curses, insults, jokes and puns, nothing worked. Well, technically they were working, but her responses were all telepathic, which didn't count as a response and thus didn't activate his quirk. Unless he could get a verbal response out of her, he could not use his quirk. Yui was trying her best to help him, but their surroundings didn't offer much for her to use her quirk on, and her attempt at enlarging her hammer before it hit Mandalay didn't work out as well as she would have liked. And only got her kicked in the head and left in a daze. Another swipe from Mandalay. Hitoshi managed to dodge it, but her claws connected with his capture scarf and tore it to shreds. Shit! He cursed. There goes his capture weapon. Without that, he couldn't reliably capture her now. And punching wasn't working. Well, time to pull out his trump card. Well, this is going to be an utter catastrophe. The cat puns. Mandalay let out a groan of annoyance. Only to realize too late that it was a mistake. It was a cat pun. A bad one at that too. What was she supposed to do? She stood there, frozen, eyes wide open as the effects of Hitoshi's quirk took over. Ha, Hitoshi remarked as he straightened himself out, walked over to Mandalay and cuffed her. A cat pun, Yui said, panting. That's what worked. Seems so, Hitoshi said, sounding surprised. Mandalay returned to her senses and looked down at her arm. It's not her fault that she can't resist reacting to cat puns. It's in her nature. Her teammates were never going to let her live this down. Unless. Her hand suddenly shot up and grabbed Hitoshi's face. Tell no one about this. She growled. Understood, Hitoshi replied, a hint of fear in his voice. Yui added with a nod, agreeing with Mandalay's request. Good, Mandalay said as she stopped threatening Hitoshi. Now all she needed to do was make sure that her teammates never saw the replay. Tenya and Nito versus Pixie Bob. Now where are you going? Pixie Bob said as she gave chase to Tenya and Nito. Her earth constructs all around them. She had already used her quirk to make the terrain uneven, making it difficult, if not impossible for Tenya to run around at full speed. You won't get away with this villain. Tenya said as he kicked an earth construct, destroying it. He couldn't reach full speed with the ground constantly shifting, leaving him at a reduced speed whilst he fends off an army of dirt constructs. Pixie Bob giggled as she leapt forwards and swiped at Tenya, only for him to jump out of the way. Well, aren't you a slippery little kitten, she cooed, but silently cursed the weight she was forced to wear. Speed and agility were her strengths, and these weights were slowing her down, and taking that advantage from her. But, she still had her earth constructs to even the playing field. A frog-like tongue suddenly shot out towards her, forcing her to jump back. Oh, well that was naughty. Flirting isn't going to work on me, Nito said, hanging onto the side of a tree. I'm gay, ribbit, he said before jumping over Pixie Bob and shooting acid at her. Oh, well, the dash, Pixie Bob said as she avoided the acid, only to suddenly freeze on the spot, eyes wide open. Nito smirked, jumping down from the tree. Tied around his fingers were 3 strands of hair. From Tsu, Mina, and Hitoshi. Did you just use Hitoshi's quirk? Tenya asked as he tapped one of Pixie Bob's earth constructs, which promptly collapsed. Yep, Nito said, smirking smugly. I have strands of hair from almost everyone in class, ribbit. Even yours. Why do you think I filled my water bottle with orange juice this morning? I see, Tenya said as he handcuffed Pixie Bob. Also, why are you rib biting? Side effect of Tsu's frog quirk, Nito replied. Some quirks do give people odd mannerisms. My quirk must copy those as well, ribbit. Oh, you crafty bastard, Pixie Bob remarked. She knew Nito could copy other people's quirks, and only needed to touch something as simple as a strand of hair. But, thinking about it now, she should have been a little bit more prepared for that. Probably should have expected this from the guy who could copy whatever quirk he wanted. At least Ragdoll and Tiger were going to give the other students a run for their money. Toru and Himiko versus Ragdoll. Well. If it isn't the consequences of my actions, Ragdoll said with a nervous smile on her face. This didn't exactly go as planned. To be fair, I am partially responsible for this mess, Himiko added. Ragdoll wasn't going to lie, she's not the best fighter in the wild pussycats. She, like their leader Mandalay, are more rescue-focused. They do know how to fight, yes, but Pixie Bob and Tiger are their better fighters. So, that was why she chose to fight Toru and Himiko, since from the footage she had seen of them so far, they were remarkably good at stealth. Keeping hidden until the time is right and ambushing their opponents. Her quirk, of course, would take away this advantage, forcing them into a straight-up fight. She just didn't expect Himiko to charge directly towards her with twin swords and a pair of grappling hooks on her hips. Which leads them to their current predicament. The two tangled up together in a lot of rope and hanging above the ground. How the hell did that happen? Toru asked, looking up at them from the ground. I don't know, Himiko replied, looking confused, like a cat who has managed to get up to a high place but has no idea how to get down. But, at least we won, now. Right? Right, Toru said with a sweat dropped. You do know I'm the one with the handcuffs, right? Himiko blinked. Fuck. Toru sighed. I'll try and find a way to get you guys down. Just hang tight. Like we can do anything else. Himiko said, sounding slightly annoyed. You know, I envisioned there being a lot more fighting in our exam. Not, whatever the hell this mess is. Ragdoll nodded as she started to fidget. She really didn't like to just be still for too long. She just had to move about and stuff, you know. She probably wasn't going to win this due to this mess she had gotten herself into. She wondered how Tiger was doing. Tiger, Ijiro and Rikido. Ijiro grunted as he threw another punch at Tiger, only for the pro to dodge out of the way and send 2 jabs into his side. He swung another punch towards him, but once again Tiger dodged it. He scowled, this wasn't a manly way to fight. Rikido charged in from behind and threw a punch at Tiger, but he was already at his limit for sugar and wasn't thinking straight. Tiger was able to see the punch coming and avoided it in such a way that Rikido ended up punching Ijiro. Tiger used this opportunity to wrap his arms around the two and squeeze them tight, arms restrained by their sides to prevent them from moving. You two should use your brain more in a fight. Tiger taunted as he squeezed the two tightly. Ijiro grunted as he tried to kick Tiger, but he was being held in such a way that he couldn't hit him. He couldn't hit him from his current angle, and Rikido, whilst he was in a better position to hit him, wasn't cognizant enough to be able to notice it or capitalize on it. Unless they could find a way to break out of Tiger's grasp, there was no way they could win. Momo and Anessa versus Lady Nagant. Fuck. Momo cursed as she ducked behind a wall, a sniper round just missing her head. That was close, too close. Their homeroom teacher was making it quite clear why she was the best marksman in Japan. They only had a few seconds to get from cover to cover before a sniper round shot out towards them. Momo believed that she had come up with a good plan to defeat her. Sadly, said plan did not survive contact with the enemy. Kana was making it impossible to pin down her location. Not helped by the fact that she wasn't using a sniper scope, so they couldn't use the glare from said scope to locate her. Plus there was the fact that she could go invisible thanks to that invisibility cloak of hers. Inasa. Any luck locating her? She asked into one of the two headpieces she had made, the other being worn by Inasa. No luck yet, Jasusus. Inasa replied frantically over the calm fucking hell. Where the heck did that come from? Keep your head down, and stay in cover as much as possible. Momo warned. We can't do anything against her whilst we don't know her location. How are we supposed to fight her like this? Inasa asked. We just need to pinpoint her location, Momo said as she dashed across the street once more, making it to cover just in time. Fuck me. She cursed. These shots were getting closer and closer. Where the bloody hell was this woman? Fuck it. Plan B. Inasa. Remember when I said no massive tornadoes? Momo asked over comms. Forget that. I need a Category 10 hurricane yesterday. Admittedly, she may be going a bit overboard with this. But when you're under attack from someone who you have no idea where they are, the only logical course of action is to level the entire area and hope you get them. Well, that's what her uncle would tell her to do anyway. But he's a bit of a mad dog, so it's understandable. Suyu in Fumicage vs. Ectoplasm. Fumicage believed that he was ready for the final exam. Even with the surprise that they would be up against the teachers, he was sure that he and his dark servant would be able to win. And partnered up with Su, he was sure he would be prepared for any challenge that may be thrown at them. There was one slight, little, tiny thing he wasn't expecting. Bombs. Oh, so many bombs. Why were there so many bombs? Where, pray tell, are you storing these bombs? Fumicage asked as Dark Shadow disposed of a few more of Ectoplasm's clones. All the while Su threw explosive device after explosive device with her tongue. Ribbit, Su croaked as she threw another bomb with her tongue. My stomach, she said before her tongue shot back into her mouth, only to come out a few moments later holding another bomb. Fumicage gulped. You store bombs in your stomach. Why? And how can you store so many? Because I can, Su replied bluntly as she threw another bomb without a care in the world. Fumicage sighed. Why was he paired with the crazy frog? He was so unprepared for this level of chaos to be caused by one frog. Oh well, at least their teacher probably wouldn't be prepared for this either. Indeed, Ectoplasm was not prepared for the large amount of explosives Su had somehow brought with her. He was going to be having words with Powerloader after this, because no one person should be able to fit that many explosives inside of their stomach. Hanta and Minoru vs. Midnight. Hanta was so glad he listened to Izumi and added an air filter to his helmet. That way, when it was down, toxic and dangerous chemicals wouldn't enter it. Or, in this case, Midnight's knockout aroma. Sadly, he was now wishing that he hadn't requested that because now he had to deal with Midnight. Era, Midnight smirked as she strutted towards the two students, using her whip to bash away any projectiles they sent her way. Oh, how I enjoy watching you kids give it your all. Stay away from me, you goddamn succubus. I already got my eyes on someone. Hanta blurted out in a panic. Oh. Is this a relationship I'm hearing about? Midnight smirked. Deets boy. No, fuck you. Minoru shouted as he threw balls all over the place. He was having to keep his distance from Midnight, as unlike Hanta, he didn't have the means to protect himself from her aroma. With pleasure Midnight cooed before she kicked up a stone and kicked it towards Hanta, hitting him in the head and cracking his helmet. Fuck! Hanta cursed as he jumped back away from the pink mist around Midnight. With his helmet not cracked, it was no longer airtight and couldn't protect him. The two were trying to find a way to restrain her, but she kept avoiding everything they threw at her. And what did come close was sent away with her whip. Hanta could go in close and try and punch her, but she had a nano core, so that idea would have been suicide. Why oh why didn't he keep that shotgun Momo made for him? Oh right, he didn't have a gun license. That's why. Midnight suddenly stopped and looked down. She had stepped on one of Minoru's balls and was now stuck. Well, temporarily that is. Oh, do you boys really think that this will stop? She said as she looked up, only to notice that Minoru was holding something. A detonator. Boom, Minoru grinned as he pressed the detonator. You see, during the past week, Izumi had gone over everyone's quirks, as well as their parents' quirks. Since Chiharu was able to understand her quirk better once she knew how both her parents' quirks worked, she wondered if the same could be done with her classmates. Minoru was one such individual. He got his quirk from his mother, but his father's quirk turned his dandruff into RDX, better known as Research Department Explosive. Needless to say, upon finding this out, Izumi asked Momo to make a detonator so that she can, quote, blow up Minoru's balls. Thinking back on it now, she probably should have worded it better. But she was excited at the time. So, after the detonator had been made, and they had been moved to a safe location to test it out, they tried it out. And what do you know? His balls were explosive. There were oh so many sleepless nights after that. Finding out that the ball on his own head could blow up wasn't a great thing to learn about. But it was also shocking that no one thought to try it out beforehand. What was with quirk counselors these days? Most of them were pathetic. Anyway, with this newfound knowledge, Minoru was making the most of it. He wasn't just randomly throwing balls around, he was strategic with them. He only had so many detonators, so he needed to use them wisely. So they baited Midnight into a trap and surrounded her with explosive balls. The balls surrounding Midnight exploded, covering the area in smoke and causing Midnight's gas to disperse. Minoru let out a sigh of relief. He knew that his bombs wouldn't work on her, but they would slow her down. Now, they can make their way to the exit dash. Did you really think that would work? Midnight purred. The two gulped as they watched Midnight strut out of the smoke, her entire body pitch black from the nanomachines hardening beneath her skin. Her costume, however, was in tatters, and only just maintained her modestly. Cute, but I endure much harder punishments regularly. Crap. The two teens thought before, in a panic, went on the offensive. Minoru threw his balls at her whilst Hanta ran around her and shot a continual strip of tape at her. Midnight soon found herself stuck. A combination of sticky balls and tape was constricting her movements, and they just kept coming. Soon enough, her entire body was soon covered in both, completely mummifying her. Oh shit, Hanta remarked as they looked at the mummified and truly stuck form of Midnight. I think we won. I think we may have overdone it, Minoru said. You sure she's okay? Hanta was about to reply before a very loud and pleasure-filled moan came from Midnight, followed by her squirming about, letting out several more moans. Clearly enjoying herself. The two teens blushed a deep red before rushing towards the exit. This was not something they wanted to be a part of. Not one bit. Releasing Midnight from all that tape and sticky balls can be someone else's problem. Gentle hero, Chiharu and Mei. Chiharu was not having a good day. She knew ahead of time that she wasn't going to do well during the exam. She wasn't that much of a fighter after all, she had been neglecting that side just to help get into the swing of things. Sadly, this was now coming to bite her in the arse. Her homeroom teacher, Gentle Hero, was kicking their arses. His quick allowed him to make almost everything elastic, including the air. This meant that not once did he touch the floor or any of the walls that were around them, meaning her quirk was useless in this fight. She had hoped that Mei would be able to do more since her mother had taught her how to fight. But they quickly came upon an issue. Isaac could be elasticized. And Mei was wearing Isaac. Needless to say, Mei quickly found herself bouncing all over the place and unable to stand, let alone fight. You should really learn to not rely so much on equipment, Mei, Gentle Hero said as he kicked Mei into a wall, only for her to bounce right off it and back towards him. Too much gear can be a hindrance, he said, sidestepping to the side as Mei flew past, right into Chiharu. Chiharu felt the wind escape her lungs as Mei hit her, sending her flying backwards into a wall. Mei meanwhile had bounced off of her and hit an opposing wall. She groaned as she looked up, and watched as Gentle Hero walked towards her. You know, I am slightly disappointed in you, Gentle Hero said with a frown. I expected more from. Chiharu sighed before she looked down at her wrist, and towards the wristband that was around it, remembering how she had received it. What is this? Chiharu asked, examining the wristband her mother had given her. They were in a small cafe during a quiet period of the day. Chiharu had agreed to have an in-person chat with her mother. Things had been going better than expected, up until Chitose decided to give her a gift. It's a transformable chain ring, Chitose replied, getting an odd look from her daughter. I had it made as a self-defense weapon, just in case I get attacked. Did you ever have to use it? Chiharu asked, a worried look on her face. Thankfully no, Chitose said with a sigh of relief. The device itself is designed to work with my quirk. It transforms into a box-shaped glove that covers my hand. There are small obtrusions at the end of it. I can detonate these to make a focused explosion in front of me. I won't be able to make much use of it, but I'm sure you can make better use of it. Back in the present, Chiharu looked down at the wristband her mother had given her. Her flattener. She quickly activated it, forming a large gray box around her hand. Mother, don't fail me now, she said, gritting her teeth as she aimed the flattener towards Gentle Hero's face, made a low-strength mine, and fired. The resulting explosion hit Gentle Hero. And whilst she couldn't see the damage due to the smoke, she was sure that the blast had hit him. However, the moment the smoke died, Chiharu's face fell. Gentle Hero was fine, unharmed, and protected by an elastic wall of air. She let out a sigh of defeat, lending her head back against the wall and letting her arms fall to the floor. Apologies about this, Chiharu, Gentle Hero said with a frown before he kicked her in the face, knocking her out cold. Izumi and Achiko vs the devil. 1 minute and 3 seconds. Izumi was sure that she was in hell. She was sure of it. Gran Torino was zipping around like mad, jumping from building to building and kicking them from unexpected angles. 1 minute. This was no use. Nothing was working. She could still use gearshift for another minute, but all it felt like was delaying the inevitable. Even with those weights, nothing was slowing Gran Torino down. 58 seconds. Izumi! Achiko screamed as she shot past her, having just been booted in the back by Gran Torino. 56 seconds. Izumi didn't have time to help her, as Gran Torino shot towards her. Danger Sense was blaring like a fucking tornado siren, which made it useless because she couldn't tell where the danger was because according to Danger Sense, the danger was everywhere. 54 seconds. Izumi ducked underneath Gran Torino as he flew right over her, but she wasn't quick enough to avoid the follow-up kick, resulting in her getting kicked into a well. Again. 50 seconds. Izumi! We are getting our arses kicked out here. Durandal shouted before he was kicked into a wall, which collapsed and buried him. 47 seconds. Fuck! Izumi cursed internally as she quickly got to her feet. Having gearshift active allowed her to move faster, but she was quickly reaching her limits. 44 seconds. Gran Torino zipped past her. She tried to touch him but her hand fell short. 42 seconds. Again, Gran Torino zipped past her, and again Izumi failed to touch him. 40 seconds. You're going to have to be faster than that. Gran Torino taunted as he jumped off of a wall and kicked Izumi in the back and sent her flying. 38 seconds. Izumi hit the ground headfirst. Not hard enough to knock her out, but it did put her into a daze. She lay there, no idea how much time was passing by. There were sounds of fighting, but she couldn't tell who was who or what was happening. All she knew was that she had to get up. 17 seconds. Too long. She was down for too long. She needed to get back into the fight quickly. She couldn't afford to waste a single second. 16 seconds. Izumi looked up, just as Achiko was kicked into a wall, handcuffs in hand. 15 seconds. Gran Torino once more started darting around like a goddamn ping-pong ball. 14 seconds. Izumi got up and gave chase, trying desperately to catch him. 13 seconds. Gran Torino wasn't making it easy. Each time she got close he'd just dart away, leaving her nothing but air to grasp. 12 seconds. She needed to tap him. She needed to. 11 seconds. Just. 10 seconds. 1. 9 seconds. Tap. 8 seconds. One finger touched Gran Torino's leg as he shot past. Instantly his speed reduced to 0. She had done it, she had put him into neutral. Now they had to capture him. 7 seconds. Achiko. Izumi shouted. She could not hold this for much longer. 6 seconds. Achiko quickly got to her feet, handcuffs in hand, and rushed over. 5 seconds. Izumi smiled as she watched Achiko rush over, their victory all but assured. 4 seconds. Achiko suddenly tripped over a loose stone, falling forwards and dropping the cuffs. 3 seconds. Izumi's face fell as she watched the cuffs fall to the ground in front of her. 2 seconds. Izumi reached forwards towards the cuffs, leaping slightly to reach them. 1 second. She picked up the cuffs and slapped them around Gran Torino's arm. Time. Izumi collapsed as she deactivated gearshift. Her body was exhausted from using it for so long. She could barely move, barely breathe. She just lay there gulping in as much air as she could. Did we win? Achiko asked, laying face down on the ground, having not moved since falling. Indeed you did, Gran Torino said as he got up, brushing the dust off of his pristine costume. You're lucky I had these weights on. I doubt you would have been able to touch me without them slowing me down. That doesn't help, Izumi panted. Now I see why All Might is so scared of you, Achiko gasped. How did anyone survive having you as a homeroom teacher? Gran Torino just smirked. Durandal chose that moment to escape from his prison and break out of the rubble that covered him. Just to let you know, you are now the second most despised person I hate in the world. Gran Torino just waved him off. I'll get some robots to take you to Recovery Girl. But congratulations on passing your exam. Not even All Might could beat me during his final exam. Although to be fair, I wasn't handicapped that time. Izumi nodded before she closed her eyes and let sleep overtake her. She woke up sometime later, laying in one of Recovery Girl's beds. She wasn't the only one there. Achiko was lying in the bed beside her, as were Chiharu and Mei. Hey, good to see you awake, Durandal said, getting up off the floor. Durandal, Izumi said with a smile. How did our classmates do? From what I can tell, the only ones to fail are Denki, Mina, Ijiro, Rikido, Chiharu and Mei. Everyone else passed, Durandal replied. Izumi sighed, glad that most of their class had passed their exams. She felt bad for Chiharu and Mei, but, out of all of them, they were the ones with the least amount of experience, since they didn't start out on the hero course. Recovery Girl said that you should get some rest, Durandal continued. You were too exhausted for her to safely heal you. Izumi nodded before she laid back in bed, and closed her eyes. She needed some rest after facing off against Gran Torino. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 54. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.